This episode is brought to you by Allstate. Some people just know they could save hundreds on car insurance by checking Allstate first. Like, to check you have the tickets in your wallet first before you drive 2 hours to the big game. Seriously, you had one job. Now the closest you'll get to the 50-yard line is parking lot D. Yeah, checking first is smart. So check Allstate first for a quote that could save you hundreds. You're in good hands with Allstate. Savings vary. Terms apply. Allstate Fire and Casualty Insurance Company and Affiliates. Northbrook, Illinois.
My dad works in B2B marketing. He came by my school for career day and said he was a big ROAS man. Then he told everyone how much he loved calculating his return on ad spend. My friends still laugh at me to this day.
Not everyone gets B2B, but with LinkedIn, you'll be able to reach people who do. Get a $100 credit on your next ad campaign. Go to linkedin.com/campaign to claim your credit. That's linkedin.com/campaign. Terms and conditions apply. LinkedIn, the place to be, to be.
A quick heads up before we get started. There's a little bit of swearing in today's episode. Okay, here's the show.
Madison Square Garden, ladies and gentlemen, give it up for the greatest capitalist in the history of the United States of America, Elon Musk.
On Sunday afternoon, Bloomberg reporter Max Chafkin was at Madison Square Garden, watching thousands of MAGA fans go wild for Elon.
It was probably the loudest the crowd was, the loudest the arena was at any point during the event, partly because people were cheering and partly because they played this video of one of the rockets landing.
The Trump rally had been going on for hours at this point. Elon was deep in the batting order, but the crowd was ready. When he pointed his black MAGA hat, they lost it.
All right. As you can see, I'm not just MAGA, I'm dark, gothic MAGA. Well, the energy in this room is incredible. What a great group of people.
This is not the first time that Elon Musk has stumped for Trump. But his prominence in the campaign keeps rising. You can even see it in where he was slotted in the program.
You want to be as close to Trump as possible. And Elon was as close to it as to Trump as it got, except for Melania. He spoke after J.D. Vance. He spoke after all the Trump children. And he was essentially in a starring role. The other day, Tim Walz joked about, Elon Musk being Donald Trump's running mate. And that's how it felt that, in the arena, that Elon was more important to Trump than J.D. Vance.
Today on the show, how Elon Musk is powering Donald Trump's closing argument. On stage, online, and perhaps most importantly, with his bank account. I'm Lizzie O'Leary, and you're listening to What Next TBD, a show about technology, power, and how the future will be determined. Stick around. Have you heard about Doublenomics? It's okay if you haven't. It's extremely niche and practiced by Discover. Here's an example. Discover automatically doubles the cash back earned on your credit card at the end of your first year with Cashback Match. That means with Discover, you could turn $150 cash back to $300. It pays to Discover. See terms at discover.com/credit card. This show is sponsored by BetterHelp. This month is all about gratitude, but there's one person we don't thank enough, ourselves. It's sometimes hard to remind ourselves that we're trying our best to make sense of everything. And in this world, that isn't easy. Practicing gratitude can improve your personal well-being, and you might find it beneficial to learn gratitude-building techniques from a therapist. If you're thinking of starting therapy, give BetterHelp a try. BetterHelp can help you tackle life's challenges by providing accessible and affordable care. It's entirely online, designed to be convenient, flexible, and suited to your schedule. With BetterHelp, you can message a professional therapist anytime, anywhere. Just fill out a brief questionnaire to get matched with a licensed therapist and switch therapists anytime for no additional charge. If something's interfering with your happiness or preventing you from achieving your goals, they may be able to help. Let the gratitude flow with BetterHelp. Visit betterhelp.com/whatnext today to get 10% off your first month. That's BetterHelp, HELP.com/whatnext. Max has been covering Elon Musk for years in his reporting for Bloomberg Businessweek and on his podcast, Citizen Elon. Recently, he highlighted the similarities between Musk and Trump's biographies. Both born wealthy, with difficult fathers, both sometimes spurned by the societies they wanted to join, and both often motivated by a sense of personal grievance.
They're both these kind of larger-than-life business guys who are like amazing marketers who are motivated, as you say, by grievance, who kind of tend to overpromise, who are like sort of obsessed with their own self-image and use that self-image to promote themselves. I think what brought them together is basically circumstance. And if it wasn't the fact that they both needed each other, they would have, instead of being attracted to one another, they would have been repelled just because, I think they both, what's so weird about this is that they both want to be in the center of the spotlight. And the idea that they would allow the other to have some piece of that and especially in Elon Musk's case, to kind of play second fiddle to somebody else is surprising.
Musk once supported Ron DeSantis, and Trump in 2022 famously doubted Musk would actually buy Twitter, which he saw as competition for his own social media platform, Truth Social.
Nah, he's got himself a mess. He said the other day, I've never voted for a Republican. I said, I didn't know that. He told me he voted for me. So he's another bullshit artist, but he's not going to be buying it.
To understand how Musk and Trump went from that to Madison Square Garden, well, that story starts with Joe Biden.
Joe Biden and the people, kind of his advisors, positioned him as somebody who was going to no longer be captive to Silicon Valley in the same way that maybe Barack Obama was. And I also think that some of it was just an accident. Like the event that so aggrieved Elon Musk was an event in which essentially promoting the fact that the big three automakers and the UAW were embracing electric cars. And Elon Musk was offended because it's an event on the White House lawn about electric cars. He's the electric car pioneer, and he saw it as this grievous insult. But I mean, from the Biden point of view, the real achievement was that it wasn't just Tesla selling cars anymore. That these automakers that had sold gas guzzlers, in the past, and that had been very resistant to EVs, were now embracing it. They were coming around, and also, of course, Biden ran as I think I think he said the most pro-union president in history. Like this was his coalition, and I think it was perfectly politically reasonable. But to Elon Musk, somebody who takes everything very personally, who sees his own role in the creation of the EV industry and his sort of status as a pioneer as very important to him, as one of his great assets. It was painful. It was an insult, and it sent him down this path.
And it comes up a lot for him. Like, he mentions this thing a whole heck of a lot for someone who is, busy and important. Boy, does it feel like they didn't invite me to this party and I'm still mad.
Yeah, definitely. He kept bringing it up.
Biden, for example, had that electric vehicle summit at the White House 6 months after getting inaugurated, and specifically excluded Tesla, even though Tesla makes more electric cars than ever. Yeah, it was not cool.
And I mean, lots of people have spent a lot of time trying to understand Elon Musk's radicalization, and there's a personal dimension. There's his relationship with his daughter. He's estranged from his daughter, who's transgender, and he has offered that as an explanation. There's also COVID. He got really mad about COVID restrictions, but in terms of his actual political engagement, like going from being just a poster, which is what he was, to being the kind of guy who's putting, as of mid-October, $132 million into a presidential race. The turn is this political spectacle.
That money is basically powering Trump's ground game through Elon Musk's America PAC, sending canvassers from door to door and funding an ever-increasing series of rewards for signing a petition if you're registered to vote.
Which is that we're going to be awarding $1 million to randomly to people who have signed the petition every day from now until the election.
It's not clear that this is completely legal, a concern that's been raised by experts, election officials, and the Justice Department. It's also not entirely clear that Musk is holding up his end of the bargain with people who signed the petition. Philadelphia's District Attorney Larry Krasner has sued Musk over it. But according to Max, that is kind of the point of this gesture. It's trolling.
I cover Elon Musk a lot, and like so often there are stories where it's like he's broken some law in some regulation, and there's the SEC or NHTSA, which is the highway regulator, or the environment, the EPA, or someone is suing him, and it feels like this is going to be hugely consequential. And Elon Musk does what he always does with these lawsuits, like takes them and puts them like in a giant stack of lawsuits that's sitting on his desk and like ignores them. And he has, one of the things, this is kind of like a subplot with Elon Musk, but perhaps it's relevant to Trump. More than probably any other billionaire, he has been able to be essentially above the law, right? He has clearly broken securities laws in the past. He's basically flaunted the rules over and over again, and mostly been able to get away with it, sometimes paying little penalties, but often basically skating, because he makes it so annoying for the regulators to deal with him. He's very rich. He's very famous. He can exhaust, his infinite resources to drag things out. And I think basically with this one, it seems like reading the Department of Justice handbook on this like vote buying, it seems pretty clear that what he's doing, it seems illegal. But I don't think it's going to stop him, and it hasn't stopped him from doing this.
When we come back, government contracts, investigations, and what Elon stands to gain and lose from a Trump presidency.
This episode is brought to you by Lumen. Your metabolism is your body's engine, so optimizing your metabolic health translates to easier weight management, improved energy levels, better fitness results, and better sleep. Introducing Lumen, the world's first handheld metabolic coach. It's a device that measures your metabolism through your breath. To use Lumen, all you have to do is breathe into your Lumen device first thing in the morning, and then the app lets you know if you're burning fat or carbs. Then, Lumen gives you a personalized nutrition plan for that day based on your measurements. It also gives you tailored guidance to improve your nutrition, workouts, sleep, and even stress management. Breathe into it before and after workouts and meals so you know exactly what's going on in your body in real time. And Lumen will give you tips to keep you on the top of your health game. Take the next step in improving your health. Go to lumen.me/TBD to get 15% off your Lumen. That's lumen.me/TBD for 15% off your purchase.
Have you heard about Doublenomics? It's okay if you haven't. It's extremely niche and practiced by Discover. Here's an example. Discover automatically doubles the cashback earned on your credit card at the end of your first year with Cashback Match. That means with Discover, you could turn $150 cash back to $300. It pays to Discover. See terms at discover.com/credit card. This episode is brought to you by Public.com. Did you know you can lock in a 6% or higher yield with a bond account at public.com? The Federal Reserve recently announced a big rate cut, and there could be more rate cuts this year and in 2025 as well. That's good news if you're looking to buy a home, but it might not be so good for the interest you earn on your cash. So if you want to lock in a 6% or higher yield with a diversified portfolio of high yield and investment grade bonds, check out public.com. It only takes a couple of minutes to sign up. And once you lock in your yield, you can earn regular interest payments even as rates decline. Lock in a 6% or higher yield with a bond account at public.com/whatnext. But remember, your yield is not locked in until you invest. Brought to you by Public Investing, member FINRA and SIPC. As of September 26, 2024, the average annualized yield to worst across the bond account is greater than 6%. Yield to worst is not guaranteed, not an investment recommendation. All investing involves risk. Visit public.com/disclosures/bond-account for more info. There are right now, let me count on the back of my hand here. 1, 2, 3, 4, maybe 5 government investigations that I can think of immediately into Elon Musk's companies. And I guess if Donald Trump wins, what? They could all just go away?
I think, yeah. I mean, I don't think you can. It's not like Trump can just snap his fingers and make these investigations go away.
It's not a straight line, no.
But I do think if Elon Musk has been, as he sees it, victimized by like constant investigations, I mean, he's going to have a much better chance of arguing that these should be dropped or whatever if he's in a position to defund federal agencies, which is what Trump has said.
This Department of Governmental Efficiency that he might potentially run?
Yeah, and this was a huge part of the Madison Square Garden event that actually during the event, Lutnick, who's the co-chair of Trump's campaign, asked Musk, like, how much money are you going to cut from the federal budget? And it's like a $6 trillion budget. How much are you going to cut? And Musk was like, $2 trillion, which I assume he just pulled out of his butt. But like, if he's in a position to be like, defunding federal agencies or controlling the purse strings, or really, and probably more importantly, being one of the most important outside voices that Donald Trump listens to, I mean, there's just like no way that doesn't have an impact on how these federal agencies are approaching Elon Musk. And and conversely, there are lots of reasons to think that if Trump is not elected, that these investigations, Musk's sort of legal issues, his regulatory issues could grow. Because, the other day, the Wall Street Journal reported that Musk had been secretly communicating with Vladimir Putin. Now, we knew that Musk had talked to Putin in like 2021, but apparently they're still talking even as Putin has, even as Russia has invaded Ukraine. And you could ask yourself, like, do we really want a crucial defense contractor, the person who runs a company that is launching our spy satellites and our astronauts, do we really want him to be, in regular communication with an adversary?
There's also the large number of contracts that Musk's businesses already have with the federal government. SpaceX, for example, is the main launch provider of rockets to the U.S. government.
What Musk wants is a Mars program. Like, let's spend like tens of billions of dollars and set up a Mars colony. And, normally you would expect to have a competitive bidding process, and they probably try to spread the work around a bit. But like what Trump has said on the campaign trail is just like, we're going to order up some rockets, And so you could imagine, a monster contract for launches. Trump has also talked about new weapons programs. He's very interested in Israel's Iron Dome, and you could imagine Elon Musk being involved in new weapons programs or whatever. The other thing that's happening that is probably like the more immediate potential way for him to make money is Starlink, which is the satellite internet business, kind of a side business for SpaceX. The U.S. government has these subsidies that are set up for rural internet, so that the government will pay telecom operators to provide internet to people in rural areas. Elon was sort of in line for one of these contracts, but didn't get it because the government decided that Starlink was not good enough, that it was not the speeds were not up to snuff, and Elon is very grieved about this. You could totally imagine that turning around for him, that he'd be able to get contracts, some subsidies for regular people to buy internet for him, which would be like really very much up his alley, right? Like not that different from Tesla, which benefits from government subsidies to make its cars cheaper. And then Starlink is also sort of desperately trying to turn itself into a defense contractor. The idea being that the military would pay for access to its communication satellites for to be able to use on the battlefield, and that is another potential area of revenue for this company and ultimately for Elon Musk, who's the biggest shareholder of SpaceX.
He's also the biggest shareholder at Tesla, where he's been pushing the idea of full self-driving cars, promising that Tesla is not just an electric car company, but a robo-taxi business.
During the latest Tesla earnings call, Musk essentially said that his hope is that Trump will just sort of legalize his robo-taxis.
There should be a federal approval process for autonomous vehicles. It really needs to be a national approval is important. If there's a Department of Government Efficiency, I'll try to help make that happen.
It's like we'll create a new framework that would allow Teslas to drive around, without passengers in them. Now, I think that's pretty. First of all, I don't know how that would work. Second, I don't know that Tesla has even the technical capabilities to do that. But I think that is actually helping to drive Tesla's stock price, in the near term.
Well, Trump could say, oh, well, we're not going to let any, let's say, Chinese firms like BYD be a part of this.
Yes, absolutely. And I think that is likely. That probably would be likely with or without Elon Musk, just given, what the politics are with China. But yeah, Trump could try to block could block competitors, Chinese competitors especially, and he signaled that he would do that. And then he could at the very least have NHTSA, which is the main highway regulator, which is investigating Tesla's autonomous vehicle capabilities. Tesla's been implicated in a handful of fatal accidents. NHTSA has serious concerns about this technology. Could at least get NHTSA to back off. If not, do something more dramatic, like try to create some sort of regulatory framework that would put these things on the road immediately.
We've been talking, obviously, about Elon Musk, but you have covered Silicon Valley tech billionaires for a long time. You wrote a book about Peter Thiel. There are a number of Silicon Valley billionaires who seem to be suddenly hedging their bets. Jeff Bezos comes to mind. Why are they doing this all of a sudden?
I think part of it is that they think that Trump might win. And in the case of Bezos, are seeking to take advantage of that and also to limit the potential for retribution. Of course, Trump has signaled over and over again his willingness and even desire to punish his adversaries and punish his political opponents. He's had a long beef with the Washington Post and sort of a mixed relationship with Bezos. And this feels like Bezos, like you said, attempting to hedge his bets. It's kind of staggering just because Bezos had kind of presented himself as somebody in opposition to Trump. But I have to say, this is very similar to what happened in 2016, where after Trump, there were all these tech CEOs and CEOs in general who were presenting as big adversaries to Trump. And then once he's in power, they basically did what every business person has done probably since the beginning of time. They sought to adapt and their big moral their big moral objections to Donald Trump sort of melted away. What's different is that a lot of this seems to be happening before the election. And I think whatever there was before kind of a taboo around business support of Trump, like open armed business support of Trump. And that feels like it really has melted away. And part of that is, you have, like I said, like the CEO of the most valuable car company standing up in Madison Square Garden, pumping his fist and, wearing a MAGA hat.
That feels to me like one of the things that Elon has done here is shift the Overton window for acceptable, I'm using that in air quotes, CEO discourse, which he has done among his CEOs or his co-CEOs. But I think you could also make the argument that he did that with his purchase of Twitter to shift the Overton window for acceptable discourse online.
100%. I mean, I totally agree with you on all counts. I mean, I think, first of all, the way I cover tech CEOs, and so I don't know how much this generalizes, but like among the tech crowd, Elon Musk, they just sort of like are generally like aping him, like he's the most successful one. So people tend to adopt his, his style, his mannerisms, his interests, and so on, because they sort of think like this is the key to success. It's not that different to how when Steve Jobs was kind of at the height of his powers, like a lot of people were wearing like turtlenecks and essentially like doing the same things that Steve Jobs did. So in that sense, it's true. But also, in terms of Twitter, I mean, we've been talking about money and like money in politics. I mean, it's a big issue. There are ethical things to debate about it, and the money here that Elon is spending is enormous. We don't know exactly how much it'll be when all is said and done, but I think it's very likely he will have spent more than the $180 million that he sort of told people he was going to spend at the beginning of this, and that's a lot on a presidential race. It makes him, one of the biggest donors ever, if not the biggest, but. That's kind of like not even the most important part of his support, because he's taken Twitter, which was this substantial media company that was basically like a way that people got their news, and completely sort of moved it into essentially like the media arm of the far right. And it's not like I'm on Twitter still. It can still be entertaining. It can still be a great way to laugh about something that happened like in a baseball game or whatever with your friends. But it is much, much more full of essentially like right-wing content and, really troublingly, hate speech, misinformation, and all sorts of stuff that in the past had been sort of kept off of there. And Elon Musk has been what he's done, and I think done mostly by design.
How much does Elon have riding on Tuesday?
I think there are two things to say. One is that he is the richest person in the world. He owns these big companies. In some ways, there's, like Elon Musk is going to be fine no matter what happens. But I will say that I think that Elon Musk is probably more vulnerable, both in terms of his businesses and his sort of regulatory exposure, than most people realize. And so, what he has to lose is if Trump is not elected, these investigations continue. Tesla is worth, I haven't checked in the last day or two, but something like $800 billion. That is, as a car maker, it is wildly overvalued. Its value is almost entirely because people have this idea that it's going to be a robo-taxi company. If that goes away, it would stop being that. And it could drastically alter the financial picture for Tesla. And if you drastically alter the financial picture for Tesla, you drastically alter Elon Musk's net worth, because he is not a liquid guy. Most of his money is in Tesla stock. So I think there are all sorts of ways his businesses could stagnate and could be dragged into further lawsuits and regulatory challenges and fines and things like that than they already are.
Because Elon stands to lose so much from a Harris victory, you might think a Trump win only means he stands to gain. But Max says it's a little more complicated.
during 2016, one of the reasons that Elon Musk backed away from Trump was because Trump refused to join the Paris, or withdrew from the Paris Climate Accord. That was the stated reason. That's why Elon told people he was sort of backing away from Trump. But the other thing that was happening at that moment was a lot of Tesla owners were getting really restless. People were talking about boycotting Teslas, not buying Teslas. Elon Musk is a conservative figure, but the people who own Teslas are not overwhelmingly conservative, right? Like, if you think of the typical Tesla driver, it's somebody who lives. It's like a kind of upper middle class person in a suburb, right? It's a Kamala voter. It's not a Trump voter, and I don't think that the kind of like backlash to Trump it is happening, and I think it's already hurting Tesla sales. But if we wake up, the day after Election Day, and the story is that Elon Musk got Donald Trump elected president, I think that is going to lead to a big time backlash against Tesla and probably against billionaires in general. Like this is what we're seeing now is unusual. It's not normal. And I don't think we know how, Americans are going to react to it. And they might react to it, very negatively in ways that could hurt Elon Musk, even if Donald Trump is throwing, one contract after another, at his rocket company.
Max Chafkin, as always, it is a pleasure to talk with you.
Thanks for having me, Lizzie.
Max Chafkin is a tech reporter at Bloomberg Businessweek. He's also the host of the podcast Citizen Elon. You should check it out. And that is it for our show today. What Next TBD is produced by Evan Campbell, Patrick Fort, Shayna Roth, and Alyssa Jong Perry. Our show is edited by Paige Osborne. Alicia Montgomery is vice president of audio for Slate, and TBD is part of the larger What Next family. And if you like what you heard, the best way to support us is by joining Slate Plus. You get all your Slate podcasts like this one ad-free, as well as exclusive bonus content like What Next's The Surge, which unpacks the craziest political news leading up to the election. All right, we will be back on Sunday with another episode about all those political texts that you're getting. I'm Lizzie O'Leary. Thanks for listening.